all in section 19-75-43, from R1 single-family residential to R3 low-density multifamily residential district, as defined in chapter 15.10, and setting a public hearing for June 23rd, 2014 at 7 p.m.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Before there's discussion, there are some new people here, and so if you are new, just because in the public hearings we called for oral protests or oral approvals, that doesn't prohibit you from speaking. The only difference is that you're limited to 5 minutes rather than 10 minutes. So if these items are of interest to you, you're certainly welcome to step to the podium, give your name and address, and make a comment. So we have a first and second. Is there any discussion by the council?
Can I ask if that's per staff recommendation as opposed to the applicant? Just so the record's clear.
Right. And that includes the planned residential overlay.
Yeah, the overlay, and I believe the parcel split recommendation. Okay, I just wanted to make certain what we were voting on. The only other thing I'd mention briefly is I'd be curious to know, I'd love to hear from the residents. I hope they'll either write to us, email us, or they're welcome to show up certainly at the public hearing on June 23rd, particularly those folks on Sylvan or Zenith Drive, as it may affect some of the traffic pattern. And so I'd like to hear, but it's also a phenomenal opportunity for housing that's needed. So I'd like to hear kind of the pros and cons from folks, particularly those mostly affected by it. So please let us all know.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I wish we had better options considering Indian Creek and provide more direct access to parking lots off of North Broadway. But can't change geography, and I'd like to see this sort of project move forward. So I also look forward to that public hearing and hear about this further.
Okay, seeing no more discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 6209, amending chapter 2.10, sales tax revenue by amending sections 2.10.010 through 2.10.030.
Move the ordinance to second reading.
Second.
First and second, any discussion by the council?
Yes, as we've discussed earlier, I have some real reservations, notwithstanding the critical nature of the levy work that has to be done. We had some discussion at the study session as to what the language clarification on that last paragraph and what the intent of it was, because it still remains what it is, and as that amended language currently reads, it appears to provide the council much wider authority than what we discussed here even this afternoon. And my concern is that given the plain language of Iowa Code Chapter 423B, I think that we are constrained very much in our authority, that we do not have the authority to do this without returning this back to the voters as we initially asked them for their opinion, and that we should not do anything that pushes or reinterprets what their intent was at the time of the ballot resolution. So I intend to vote against this.
I would like to say that I would agree that on second reading, my colleague, Councilmember Ringenberg, had an excellent point with regard to having subsection. There are two subsections that are changing in this chapter if this passes. And even though laws are really meant to be read as a whole, there's an idea of making it very clear that the restriction that the council, even though the language will say that we can do as much, spend the money on as much different subject areas as the voters permitted, the section says we can spend it as we deem appropriate, necessary. The previous section says, of course, we can't go beyond what the voters have authorized, the limits of the box. And so making that a bit clearer, I think, it doesn't hurt. I think it helps make it better. But on the substantive issue, when you get down to it, I see my colleague's point. I'm strongly disinclined to agree with it, but I see his point. And we have asked, just so folks know who didn't have the benefit of being in study session this afternoon, we are having the legal department look into that to determine whether the language in the ballot initiative, because you have to look to what the language says, not what we today think about it. That's what the law says. Look to the English that's written. I'm extremely comfortable that what's being proposed is within the language, but I think it's very sensible and to have legal department weigh in on this matter at this point. And so we look forward to hearing that response in due course.
And we do have 2 more readings of this as well for any further questions or.
Although I don't think a third reading has been scheduled yet.
Not yet, but it would unless this body were to waive it. Larry, can you give your name and address for the record, please?
Larry Kofod, 2627 Avenue J. I am a little bit concerned about this, basically because of the verbiage of it, and I'm just afraid that if we are taking money away from one area and putting it in another, not to say that the levies aren't an important issue. I live a mile away from the levee, and it was extremely important to me in 2011 that levee held. But it's also extremely important to me that our streets be taken care of. We've had an awful lot of rain, we've had an awful lot of flooding in the area, and there's streets and sewer systems that are going to be collapsing. It's just a matter of time. Our water table has risen so much, and there's nothing we can do about that water table unless we are to put in a large pump in the middle of the city and pump all that out to the river, hopefully to the south, and then the people south of us will surely enjoy that. They can fill up their swimming pools. But I'm against this because of the fact that if we start taking money away from one area, that the money was by voters' request to be used for improvements on the city, and we take it away from there and we put it into the levee systems, and then there again, I'm not saying the levees aren't important, but if we take it away from that and put it into that, and then pretty soon we say, oh golly, gee, we need all these streets and sewers repaired, where we're going to get the money from, now we get another tax increase. If people that are living on a fixed income, they just can't take a lot more. And city taxes, you know, I realize we've got to take care of things, but there's also a point where a lot of people have had enough of taxation, and we've got to leave things in order to pay for other things. And so I'm just against this verbiage right now.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate your comments, and I'm of the same concerns that you are about the taxpayers, but what I want everybody to know is that it's not optional, so one way or the other, we have to repair Indian Creek, Mosquito Creek, and those that take the storm sewer, you know, that's the outflow for the storm sewer out to the river, and then we have to repair the levee. So whether we find that that is all an integral part of the sewer system as the ballot initiative read, or we don't, the taxpayers will, if we don't use this, then we'll have to do a bond issue to get the matching funds to pay for it. So either way, at least this way we've got, yeah, it is, it's really worrisome. So, this way we've got everybody that buys in Council Bluffs is helping towards it, but otherwise it'll be a property tax increase.
I understand what you're saying, but I also understand from the taxpayer's point of view, we have certain expenses, and just myself, I had an air conditioner that went kaput, and I had to call them in on overtime. Unexpected, but yet I still had to pay it, and that comes out of my budget then, and it shortens me up.
Yeah, and this is an amount of money that can't come out of the budget. I think the total will be over $40 million or more.
Yeah.
So it's not even an item you can budget for, but the whole point is that the ballot initiative read sewer system, and so the question that we're getting legal information about is whether or not Indian Creek, Mosquito Creek, and the levee are considered an integral part of that storm sewer system. So we'll get that.
And the other thing to mention is the overall cost of this, however we fund it, is total, not just counting the contribution from local taxes, but the money you pay in federal taxes and in state taxes, is $114 million. And if we don't do that, 39,500 people's homes are in danger of flooding. And indeed, actually, much of town, particularly towards the south and the west end, are, believe it or not, and I didn't know this before I was on the council, but many of the pump stations, because of the lay of the land, they actually sit, you know, we describe elevation in terms of sea level. If you consider the river level, consider that zero, there are significant parts of Council Bluffs that actually are below the level of the river. So even during times of drought, if there's any water in that river, we have pumps going 24/7, or many of the houses would be anywhere from 4 to 17 feet underwater in a drought. Because those areas, that's why the older part of Council Bluffs is built starting about a block and a half up the hill from here. Because unlike Omaha, a lot of times people ask, why is our downtown 4 miles in? Because until the levees of the 1950s, you couldn't build there. It was underwater half the time. And you can't change nature. We've got to fix those. For all those folks, their homes and lives are in danger. And indeed, they will be rendered completely ineligible for flood insurance. So good luck getting a mortgage or keeping it, and there's no way anyone's going to buy your house. So you're going to be stuck in whichever house you have forever, unless you walk away from it, and the financial implications of that. So make no mistake, we've got to pay for it one way or the other. We can't, I mean, as a city, I don't like taxes any more than anyone else, but it seems to me that's an absolute necessity, people's lives being above water, literally, not just figuratively. And so, and I think, and I won't repeat what my colleague, the council member White said, but echo it, that we are getting a legal opinion now as to whether sewer systems includes the levees. I am very confident it does. I see the point that it may not, but we'll get a legal opinion on that. And again, if we don't do it through the local option sales tax, well, local option sales tax is paid by the folks in Neola, Underwood, Trainer, that all come to town and shop in our stores. So they help pay for that. If we do a bond issue or property tax, it'll just be the people who own property and indirectly the people who rent property in town, and it won't be shared quite so equitably. All those folks who come in, and we very much want them to take advantage of the fact that we have so many fantastic stores and restaurants to go to, so they should help pay for it too, it seems to me, that those areas stay above water. So it's a complicated issue, but we've got to do it, and I don't think there are no frills here.
And before I let you go, Mark, I'll go real quick, just to clarify one thing. You will be able to get flood insurance, but you will be required to get flood insurance. If those levees aren't recertified, the Bigger Waters Act now requires that flood insurance be sold at the true actuarial value of flood insurance, which means that people who have flood insurance today over the next few years on an 18% escalating annual rate will pay 5 to 7 times what they pay in flood insurance today. If you have to get flood insurance today, you're a new purchaser of flood insurance, you'll pay the full actuarial rate. And so in many cases with those homes down there, their monthly, if you live and still have a mortgage, your monthly flood insurance premium will exceed your mortgage payment. And so that's a big concern to this council too. Mark?
Absolutely. Mark Hanson, 110 Highclere. My question is this. First off, according to Councilwoman White, $40 million is the proposed amount.
No, it's a lot more than that. It's just that if...
No, coming from the sales tax that you want to shift from the sewer to the repair, is it $40 million or is it only a fraction?
No, it's only a fraction of that. We'd be able to use that as matching for the application that we just had approved from the state, and Matt can explain to you more about how that works, but it'd be matching funds, so it's over a long period of time that this
Ballpark figure?
And if I may...
It's somewhere around 2 to 4 million.
If I may, the one thing is remember, when the voters approved the language, the one thing that no one disputes, because it's in black and white literally, is that the voters approved money to be,